as all a bit Brexit to F1 podcast, our Failcast Spectacular, where we play F1 2017 and talk about current F1 shenanigans. Myself is Mr. Bolkenberg from High Plane Games. Alongside me as ever is our favourite taco friend, Mr. Definitely Zero. How are you doing, Esteban?
Bono estende, amigo. I'm doing very well. I've got pink grapefruit Red Bull this week, so
I didn't
that's
even
going
know that
down
was a
like
thing.
a treat. Neither did I. The Ruby edition, exotic.
Sounds like a poem.
And we are once again upon the one round in the season where it's guaranteed something will go wrong.
Yes.
Every year, either the episode is a write-off completely because the connection drops, or the rain appears out of nowhere on the last lap, and and we go from like 10th to last.
Exactly, I agree. And funny enough, even in my single player career mode, this race was a farce for me. So I lost all of the front wings. So I expect no less. I've also noticed that the driver AI has set itself to 41 medium today. In its up and down quest.
Can I fix this somehow? Is it in the lobby settings?
Yeah.
Post options.
I think.
Jesus Christ, game.
Doesn't show up.
We were at 75, weren't we?
Yeah. Yeah. There we go. It shows now. Yes.
Sweet.
So hopefully, now that we're both showing 75, it will stop that issue that we were having earlier.
Yeah. I was going to say, I wonder if it's all of them.
Boo. Although, just before we kicked off here, I hadn't noticed that the latest update had also included photo mode. And then I saw you tweeting it. And then a couple of our followers, Chimp Racing and someone else, was sending out things. And I'm like, oh, so I've been playing with
stunning shots, weren't there?
Yeah.
I really liked. I saw one on your timeline, and whoever it was, I apologise for not remembering your name, but there was a great shot of the Sauber.
Callum,
really good. Yeah, where the blue was really intense. I was like, nice. I haven't played around with it too much, but I do like the new liveries, and that means you and I should be in a properly liveried Haas for the first time this season.
I know, our Haas is not half-Haas, it's now up to date.
Well, the full Haas, both cheeks pressed firmly together, second and third in the Drivers' Championship.
Yes.
Quite a few points do separate us, though, and technically you should be leading the Drivers' Championship with an extra... You should be on 75 points, you cheeky rascal.
I know. But I think now that the AI, if it's sorted itself out, should basically put us back in our place again. Back down, Haas's.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, to be fair, I don't know if it counts because it is, technically a bit fluky, but it was on course. So far, it's our best season to date. So,
yeah.
Shall we see if we can continue the
Let's do that.
The fluke?
I suppose whilst we're talking about Haas, we should really take on what we was just quickly discussing beforehand as probably the most important news in Formula One at the moment. Romain Grosjean and his wife have a Rogro cookbook.
I pre-ordered my copy. I don't know about you.
I wonder what they would call it.
I saw it, like, if you go to Romain Grosjean's website, he does have a website. There's like a mock-up of the cover, and that you can order it through that. And the first thing that I noticed was that his wife, I don't know how old his wife is, but in that particular picture, she looks quite a bit older than him. It looks like a bit of a cougar situation.
Oh, yes. I believe we may have touched upon this like years and years ago, because this rings a bell.
Yeah, we did, didn't we? Because we found out his wife was like way older than him or something.
Yeah. He's not been in the Rogro quite as long as what she has, yeah.
No, but to be fair, like she's a good-looking woman. She just, she's a bit mature, as they would say.
Like a
anyway, I heard about this cookbook from my Dutch Formula One watching work friend, and I hypothesized that it's 140 pages of cakes that he's dropped. Just every page you open, it's like, I tried to make a cake, but the brakes didn't work. And it's just cakes on the floor. Burgers where the fat's melted through the bread, so when you pick it up, it falls apart, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, please, please let that be a thing. The race is dry, by the way,
But we're wet in the
all the way
fucking
throughout
hell.
quali.
I knew this was going to happen.
Although it gets drier as it goes on, but Q1 is full wet.
All right, then I will not remain in the pits in protest at that. Then I will get out and see what I can do. I'm not as good in the wet on this version of the game as I have been in others, and I believe this is the first wet for us in co-op. No?
Yes, I think it is. All right,
I can
Jeff.
tell we've got the new livery.
Yeah, it's looking gorge.
Is there a reason I'm being held in the garage?
I think because I'm popping out.
There we go.
I think we both selected it together. Oh, hello.
Same as ever. Every year, number one driver.
Not for long. Not for long. Now, where's the braking? And the other problem that I've got is that I've been playing Gran Turismo Sport and Project Cars 2 and this game. And just before this, I was also doing a quick a review for a complete arcade racing game called Brakes Are for Losers. So I really need to make sure that I've got back into this mode of racing. Oh, you're a bit...
This has got disaster written all over it, hasn't it?
Yeah,
you and me.
I feel like you need to go.
In the wet.
Go, Zero, go. So yeah, if I was... I suppose then coming out of that, if Roman Grosjean is having a cookbook, I wonder what other books... Because Jensen Button's got his autobiography.
Jensen Button's got a book out.
Yeah, that
and
comes
I
out
don't
next
think
week,
that's full of recipes, unfortunately.
No. Although I do like that the only quote that seems to have come out of it so far is Lewis Hamilton was a bit weird.
Yeah. He was a good teammate, but he'd collect all these magazines and cut the eyes out of all the women.
And then pop in pictures of his nipples instead. But yeah.
Actually, I did see something else that came out from it, which surprised me. Ooh. That in 2009, his World Championship year, when his team was going to go under, he was actually offered a drive at Toro Rosso, and he nearly took it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was really surprised to hear that, but he didn't take it in the end because obviously things worked out with his current team, but they also wanted him to bring sponsorship.
That's really funny.
Which is a bit of a cheeky thing to do. And now I'm thinking back, like, who was in the Toro Rosso 2008-2009? Was that the year they replaced both Alguersuari and
the
other
before.
one?
So it was Vettel and initially Bourdais, and then Bourdais gave way for Buemi.
Because, what? Why did they want...
That was Buemi's debut, and then Bourdais made way for Alguersuari.
That's right. So if he'd have done that, then Alguersuari would not have had the brief interruption to his international DJing career that was his 2 years at Toro Rosso.
Yeah, because Buemi, I think, was confirmed before any of Bourdais and that happened, because they didn't seem to like Bourdais at all and wanted a shot of him as soon as he was in. So
and I always had a bit of a soft spot for Bourdais. I thought he was all right.
Yeah, he does like to cry a lot, but he's turned up good again in IndyCar and won quite a lot again since. So that's all good.
Yeah, he's done all right, hasn't he? He's done better than Vittorio Liuzzi, who to me was very much a Rubens Barrichello figure because he too was middle-aged before he was young.
Yes, although his hairdo, I think, is what I mostly remember of that poor guy.
You mean his hair don't?
Yeah. Oh dearie me, make me cry on the inside.
Before we dive on any further, how are you getting on? How are you feeling in the car? Because some stuff has changed in the patch, and I am finding that I have to drive what feels incredibly slowly to be like on the pace. It's really bizarre.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I feel like the grip has gone down ever so slightly for some of the cars, and yeah, but it's really subtle though. But it's there, isn't it?
It is. Just something feels a little bit different. I'm 2/10 down on my own time, so that's not good. I thought I was being a bit quicker, but seemingly not.
I'm not at all. I'm a couple of seconds off. I've went for a wild turn 3. Yeehaw! So yeah, if you was to pick an F1 driver to have a certain book, I mean, what would you do? I don't know. Vettel's top 100 tips to avoid speeding penalties. I don't know.
I'd quite like a book written by Giancarlo Fisichella, foreword by Eddie Irvine, just called "Picking Up Chicks." That's what I'd like.
I'm down with that.
I would buy the crap out of that book. Oh wow, a full second off the pace, Ben. Ooh. Sorry, blah.
Blah.
I am 4th though.
I'm 6th. We've got a Verstappen between us.
Oh. There's always a Verstappen in the way, isn't there? Just ask Daniel Ricciardo, which we'll get onto in due course. Well, actually, I tell you what, I'm reading an F1 book right now, since we're moving on to book reviews. It's written by Adam Parr, do you remember him?
Yeah.
And Ross Brawn. And basically, it's only tangentially on F1, but basically they're talking about, you know, their experience in the industry and stuff, and basically it's like a... I suppose in some respects it's like a self-development book, I guess. It's about applying their knowledge and what they've learned to, you know, to other aspects of life, I guess, and describing their own journey through the ladder. I haven't got that far into it because I've just been working my way through Crashed and Burned as well, about...
I love that book.
Yeah, the Formula 1 driver that no one knows.
Mr. Perry McCarthy. And interestingly, that book, I love that book, and there's only one chapter that is actually about his F1 career, but it's so entertaining just to how wheeler dearly and all over the place it is, and also dealing with the British 90s racing brat pack of your Herberts, your Hills, Blundell, Warwick, all kind of kicking around. It's like a little load of mates.
I have to say though, the best F1 book I've ever read, hands down, it has been something called the Piranha Club. Have you read that?
No, I haven't.
Oh mate, you have to get your hands on it. Anyone who's into F1 has to get their hands on it. So there's chapters dedicated to all kinds of different people from F1. It starts, I believe, with Enzo Ferrari. Then you work your way through Colin Chapman, Frank Williams, and there's a chapter on Eddie Jordan. And basically it's about all the behind-the-scenes politics. Like, it talks about... We're talking about the good old days here where F1 teams, the owners, had their name over the door. So, you know, 60s through to the 90s, basically.
Yeah.
And it's talking about the cutthroat nature of F1. So there's talks about, like, takeovers, the Michael Schumacher, Jordan to Benetton drama. It talks about the McLaren cheating scandal, with, you know, interviews from people who were there at the time. There's a full chapter on Bernie and Max Mosley that's really good as well. Like, you know, stuff about Bernie where if he heard someone had said something bad about him, he would go up to them face to face and sort of challenge them to repeat it. Which, given he's about 4'2", shows you just how intimidating he was. I recommend that to everybody. I think everyone should read that book. Forza Minardi as well is a great book, but it's mostly pictures, so it suits me down to the ground. There's also a book about Ken Tyrrell that I want to read, but I haven't got down to that yet. And it's a book episode today. A Different Kind of Life by Frank Williams' wife. Rest her soul.
Yes, I have popped that on my wish list, and that'll be something that I'll be asking my parents to get me for Christmas, because I didn't know that existed until I watched the Williams documentary.
And that documentary is excellent, isn't it?
Yes,
truly excellent. It renewed my love for that team a little bit.
Yes.
It's a fantastic book. I won't spoil it then. I'll let you read it, and we can talk about it in the new year maybe. But while we're on the topic of Williams, actually, congratulations to Claire Williams and her husband, Mr. and Mrs. Williams,
Is it Williams?
for the birth of their son.
Yes,
The dynasty continues.
exactly.
I suppose then we should get on to some actual F1 news.
Yeah.
Shall we?
Should we have a rummage?
Shall we rummage through the news bin? Since we're already on Williams, why don't we talk about the tests that went on in Hungary this week, where the Williams, the Williams Heritage team ran some 2014 cars for Robert Kubica and Paul di Resta. Obviously, they're trying to evaluate one of them for potentially replacing Felipe Massa. You and I have already made our feelings on that known, that we don't see a particular reason why you would elect to replace Massa at this point.
Especially with either of those two as well, for me. But yeah.
Yeah. Now, Andrew Benson, who obviously is likely to have the inside track on a lot of these things, he put out on Twitter that he believes Kubica is going to get, which, I'll be honest, surprised me a little bit, because again, you and I believe there's no reason to replace Felipe Massa. Anyway, it caused a lot of people to respond in Twitter comments. Not many di Resta advocates among them.
Surprise.
But I was surprised how many people were just tearing Massa to shreds. People were saying, "Oh, all he does is ruin the end of races," and someone said he's never going to win. I was like, he's never going to win in that car. That car's never going to win. I don't think that's down to Felipe.
No.
I think it's
No, exactly.
and I don't know why all of a sudden everyone's like, "Oh, he's shit, get rid of him." I mean, he's a safe pair of hands, man. And Williams have always been a conservative team when it comes to their drivers.
Yeah, I think as well, it's if people could look at this in context, Lance Stroll has been wiped the floor with by Massa, and I've not seen tons of progress over the course of the season to make inroads, especially when it comes to qualifying. There's always a big gulf. And actually, if you look at Massa's finishing record this year, it's been pretty shocking because of the amount of bad luck and crap that he's had. And Stroll's only next to him in points because of Azerbaijan, which he was running behind Massa with when Massa retired. So people just sort it out. I wonder if people feel cheated that Massa was supposed to go last year and they've already invested that emotion and they're just like, just go away now.
I don't know, some people there were saying, oh, they should get Verline, and then Benson pointed out that, well, they need someone older because of they need someone older, and the guy was like, why do they need someone older? And I said, well, because of Martini, because they need to someone older to promote alcohol globally. And the guy, just a total dick, just goes, oh, get rid of him. And it's like, yeah, but it's not that simple, is it? I mean, they are the biggest benefactor of the team.
This is why I don't look at too many of the comments on Twitter and YouTube on F1 fans these days.
Well, I mean, I try not to be too critical, right? I mean, because the sort of the circles that you and I move in, the sort of distinguished people who listen to us talk, all seem to be, quite mature, dedicated F1 fans. People are going out on Inters.
Yeah, I've just noticed that.
Shit, I guess my time probably won't stand, so time to get out on the Inters. Yes, the Inters are 3 seconds faster, so we need to get out, my old amigo. Good job I fucking noticed that, because I was going to stay in. Dropping F-bombs like it's Star Trek. So, what I noticed was that a lot of people in comments were talking like... you can tell when a fan is totally driver obsessed.
Yes.
Right? They don't really care about the sport. In a sporting sense, they just want to see two particular drivers battle it out.
Yeah.
Like, the comments were full again, Simon.
Sorry.
The same thing, was coming out in the comments again. People complaining about Massa from the standpoint that he gets in the way of their favourite drivers. And I was thinking, well, what do you want? Do you want a grid of 4 cars? Is that what you want? Like, part of F1 has always been negotiating the back markers and the traffic. That is the sport. If you don't like it, then you don't like the sport. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And that is so reactionary off the back of a single race, where
Yes.
or like
Yes,
two
it is.
races. Because like, is everyone now saying that Alonso is the worst driver ever in the history of mankind because he held up someone at Russia or whatever, at Japan, and in Malaysia, I think he did as well. It's not like people just have such short-term meme memories, or maybe it's just the internet for you. I don't know.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, right? But these people, by and large, were advocating for Wehrlein. Because, you know, he's a Mercedes driver, they've got Mercedes engines.
Go for it.
Do
You're
it.
faster
Do
than
it now. Toto. And I was really surprised about that, because I was thinking, you know, fine, if you don't want Di Resta or Kubica, I can argue with that, that's fine. But why on earth would you want to... Poor Williams, why would you want to inflict Pascal Wehrlein on them? The angriest hair in the world.
There is a lot of angry hair that goes with an angry face. He doesn't really smile very often.
No, I mean, I don't get why people would want that to happen. Because can you imagine Wehrlein and Stroll as teammates? It doesn't sound like a very good fit somehow. And I don't just mean in terms of like team dynamic. I mean in terms of like getting results. I know Pascal is very highly rated and he's supposed to be the next big thing, but it just hasn't come together, has it?
No.
I've become a bit more sceptical of him.
30 seconds left in the session.
My opinion of Pascal is it's gone down over time because I thought he would have trashed Ericsson more than he had done. And I don't know if that's Ericsson is actually better than what we give credit for when he's not making really stupid errors.
The best kind of errors.
Exactly, the kind of errors that put me to bed at night with a smile.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm not quite sure at the moment what else he could do in that car. But because he's not dominating, I just kind of go, well, then he's not the next best thing.
It's a Toro Rosso paradox.
It is.
Except the Toro Rosso paradox is a bit more valid when your teammate is Merrickson.
Yeah. Oh, shit. I think I might be out in Q1.
No.
I
Please
dropped
no.
it. Yeah, 18th. Yeah.
Oh, mate.
I dropped it in the chicane.
I'm sorry.
No, that's cool.
That sucks.
I can chat lots of poo. But I did still beat Pascal. So...
So you can have the Williams seat.
Yeah. Have you also noticed that they've finally given Stroll less power in this game?
Oh, yeah.
Thank
Actually,
Christ.
Kvyat is still punching above his weight a little bit, but...
He is.
And what's happened to Van Dorn? Where is he?
Yeah, 16th down there. Not great. Not great. Never mind. Palmer, lol. Yeah, so...
But
I don't know what Mercedes then do with a problem like Pascal, because it's Sauber are increasingly going back to their Ferrari roots. That means Charles Leclerc is in. Oh, we can get to play with the new spectator stuff. I'm happy now. So like,
see what the weather's doing.
you kind of go, Pascal doesn't really fit there anymore. So there's nowhere else really Mercedes driven where he can go. So it kind of spells the end for Pascal, I think, because they put their eggs with Bottas. That was the time when they could have said, you know what, Pascal, have a go. But they went with Mr. Bottas, who is increasingly unimpressing me as the year goes on.
Yeah, and that bothers me because I know he's capable. Like, I know he's capable. He can do it. Bottas is capable of being a Mercedes driver. I know he is. But I don't know what's gone on this season. He started pretty well, and then it's just sort of gone downhill a little bit. But, I mean, I could, on some levels, see them because you're right, there is no Mercedes backdrive to stick Princess Pascal in, but I could see them making him their reserve driver and then slotting him in the year after.
Yeah, because Bottas is only about for another year, isn't he? Before
Yeah, he is.
the
But
2019 shenanigans continue.
what are you doing, Alonso? Get out of my way.
See, now he's the worst driver ever.
Yes, it is. What a bastard. McLaren actually put an advert out in Spanish to mark the fact that he'd re-signed with the team, which I thought was incredibly cheesy.
Ah, yes. I've not seen it yet on the McLaren channel.
Right, I will back off then, Alonso. Fine, but you better not. I better not catch you on this lap, because otherwise there's going to be a smacked bottom.
Fernando, don't.
Look, I'm catching you already, Fernando. Come on, pull your finger out.
Yeah, on the wet weathers, you were as a second faster than me, which was good.
Cheeky.
Like it. Over the line you go. And so to kind of, I suppose, round up that topic as a whole, I am surprised if Kubica gets it. If he does do it, though, it's quite, for me, that's quite a short-term solution to a long-term problem. But then I guess with Williams, they're only ever looking at 1 or 2 seasons ahead at the moment, because they don't have a plan in place to be running back at the top. So therefore people won't sign for like 5-year deals or whatever. So maybe Kubica for 2018 with an option for 19, if he's still got the old spirit, will be fine. But then he's already late in his career. Yeah. But then I suppose you've got the same problem with Massa. Ooh.
I just decided, get out of my way.
That's gonna be boozy!
Ah, what a bastard.
Andos. Dive it.
I've lost a lot of time, but it was worth it, because I can get it back on the next lap.
It looked pretty amazeballs on the Staffs. So whilst that's all kind of sorting itself out, oh look, fastest lap stuff going on down at the bottom. Oh, I love this. I've not seen the qualifying spectator stuff before, so this is exciting me.
Well, I'm glad. No, but just a quick point on what you said. I agree completely. Like, there's no way that it makes sense for see Kubica as anything more than a 1 to 2 year prospect.
Yeah.
And I know Williams are redesigning their car entirely for next year. They've got it's a big thing for them that they want to completely rework the current design paradigm of their machinery.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be that we see them take a step forward. More likely, I suspect they'll take a step back.
Mm-hmm.
But let's not put all our eggs in one basket for a second. But with Stroll being their sort of hot young prospect, it does sort of restrict them a little bit. Because they're always going to need a senior driver, well, at least for sort of 2 to 3 years. So whether Kubica's got the stamina to last that long, I don't know. I mean, I believe he is fast enough to come back to F1. I'd love to see it, but at the same time, if I was Claire Williams, I'd be a little bit unsure of pulling the trigger, as much as I love the guy, because you've not seen him over the course of a full season, and that injury to his arm, maybe he's fine around Hungary, but what about Monaco?
Mm-hmm.
We don't really know what his capability is.
No, and I guess for me, when I quite like transparency and stuff, which is quite a paradox because I work for the government, and whenever I look at data and whenever I look at press releases, I'm so cynical now these days, having worked for the government. Nicely done, sir.
Thank you very much.
Great time. Whenever you're working at press releases, I would really like to know what the definition of a successful test is, because that's all that people keep saying. Now, a successful test might be that he's gone out and completed a lap and not binned it. Don't know pace-wise, don't know stamina-wise, don't know Kubica's health-wise. And so it makes it very difficult to then say, right, he done 110 laps, he didn't feel any physical pressures, his lap times were on par with Di Resta, if not 2 or 3 tenths faster, therefore that is a successful test. It's very difficult to understand in the PR climate.
Oh, nearly lost it there. I couldn't agree more, mate. On that, it's very difficult to know.
Yeah.
I mean, all we know for sure is that he beat Sorokin in the Renault tests on pace.
Yeah. And Sergei's not too bad.
This was his 5th tests, right?
Yeah, I think so. But it's yeah, I don't know. I think if they're having some kind of big redesigny thing, probably bringing in a new driver that's only going to last for 1 or 2 years is also difficult, be it with Massa, Kubica or Di Resta, because that car, if Stroll is their long-term prospect, needs to be built around what he likes to drive if he's going to be the one that stays the long time. I know that sounds a bit cynical, but otherwise you're designing for a driver that's not going to be there to make the most of it in 2 years' time. So,
that's what we argued with the Button Alonso thing, didn't we?
Yeah.
That they should have got Van Dorn a little bit earlier.
Yep.
Thanks to Honda, it didn't really make a difference. But I agree with you completely. Actually, that was another recurring theme in all the comments. Actually, that Papa Stroll owns the team and he makes all the decisions, which of course is bullshit. You know, he's not got any executive power. Yes, he does put money into the team, but that's to keep Lance there. That's not to dictate anything else. Now, you know, assuming Andrew Benson is right, it just does seem a very odd choice to me. I think it would be far more sensible to stick with Massa, maybe 1 more year, 2 more years, until the Martini deal is up, and then get another young gunslinger. By then, Lance should be ready to take on #1 driver.
The only way how I can see that being any difference is that if Williams do finally get their act together and go up the order, then they have the pick of the more mature driver, and therefore can really make a difference because they can select out people that will want to be with them for multiple years, as opposed to kind of being I'll go here because it's a nice safe midfield team bet. But I don't see that happening, and I can't. You won't see that happening until we see what's going on with next year's car. So yeah.
No. So yeah, I can see why they didn't take Di Resta. I think he was probably only in the mix really out of courtesy.
It's a good barometer, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he's been gone too long. He by no means disgraced himself earlier this year. I think he did pretty well, but I don't think he's the shot in the arm the team needs.
If I think of a driver that I'd like to have sedate me to sleep, he would probably be top of my list. There's no star potential there, and when you've got to go up against Stroll and his mighty eyebrows, I can just see everyone wanting to, I don't know, probably commit suicide because they're two miserable people.
Do you know what I thought of, though? Because a lot of people were saying, well, there's not many free prospects over 25 that are worth having, because most of them are like big names or they're near retirement. I mean, if you think about it, who have you got that we know for certain is like way over 25? And that leaves you with Hülkenberg, tied in at Renault, multi-year deal. Yep. Alonso, tied in at McLaren, multi-year deal. Vettel, Ricciardo, Raikkonen, Hamilton, Bottas. Yeah. And a large part of me thought we'd actually see Bottas come back to Williams, but then Mercedes surprised us all by signing him again. Yeah. But I actually thought he would boomerang back to Williams, and that would be quite a good fit in my mind, like replace Massa with Bottas. Like, he's shown that he can do it at Williams and that he's comfortable there. The team likes him, he likes the team. But then it occurred to me, Jev, bring back the Vern.
Ah, yes. Monsieur Verny.
What, was no phone call even made? I mean, I'd be personally quite offended. There's a lot of drivers in that got kicked out of F1 that shouldn't have been. And I'd be watching this unfold and being quite insulted because they've they've had a look in the phone book and they've decided, well, obviously the two best people we can test for this seat is the Polish guy who almost lost an arm and the fat ginger presenter from Sky Sports F1. And you think, well, what? I mean, surely you've got more numbers in the phone book than that. But then again, you know, Brendan Hartley is proof that teams do come crawling back. So maybe that's what's happening with the Resta.
Quite possibly. And that's an amazing segue, may we add, to welcome to F1 Brendan Hartley, who, to be fair, I'd not heard of really massively because I don't follow endurance racing greatly. So his name was kind of he does really well over there. But I'd like to draw our attention to the fact that I saw a photo, it might be on the BBC website, or if not, it's on gpupdate.net, where about 10 years ago, or in 2009, 2010, I think it was, you've got Brendan Hartley, Daniel Ricciardo, Sainz, and possibly Kvyat. Maybe not be Kvyat, it might be Webber or someone like that. And they're all standing there looking all really like massively well presented and like beaming and smiling next to a Red Bull car. And then Brendan Hartley stood at the back with like proper emo rocky hair, massive spots everywhere, blonde like greasy locks down everywhere, looking like he just wants to murder people and then go to his room and cry. And it's so funny because listening to him with how he's talked about why didn't you get to F1 beforehand, why were you dropped from the Red Bull program, it's been really refreshing to hear someone basically say I just weren't good enough, I didn't enjoy it, I wasn't ready mentally at the time at age 18, 19, which will annoy me immensely because everyone will go, but look at how Max Verstappen is, wank wank wank, spooge.
Yeah.
But it was really good to hear that he basically has taken being dropped and going off and finding himself again elsewhere. He said was the best thing that ever happened to him. And it was interesting that he called Helmut Marko a few months ago and was like, yeah, if you need a driver anytime soon, I'm ready for you now. And that was kind of what he said. And apparently Helmut Marko, all he said on the phone was, I got the message. And that's all he said. And like basically was bye, and that was it. And then months later, there he is in the car.
I mean, it's a strange one, right? Because he is far too old for Toro Rosso, in my humble opinion.
Is that because
he's
not
27? Yeah, he's 27.
That makes him eligible for a Williams drive.
It makes him eligible for Williams, actually, it does. But he, first of all, I want to say I really like him, and I have followed a bit of endurance, and I think he was fantastic in that. He was teammates with Webber when they won the championship, so he's a two-time world champion now, isn't he? Or maybe three.
Yeah.
I think he won it again this year, didn't he?
No, he's on course to win it this year.
That's right. So you know he's proven he's got the chops, in my opinion, but it's a bit late to be having an F1 career.
That seems so weird at age 27. I get where you're coming
doesn't
from.
It
Sounds
like,
so wrong.
But you know, obviously, like if a Red Bull seat comes up in the next few years, it's going to Gasly. Why would you have Hartley in Toro Rosso?
Yeah, so for me, this is about him springboarding out of Red Bull again and not being part of the Red Bull program long term. I guess for me, what the big question over the whole thing is, again using my boring analogy, how do you solve a problem like Kvyat? Because it's now, how do you solve DRS enabled? Dries. Oh no, it's the end of the session, right? Okay.
Yeah, end of the session.
Phew, that was an interesting line. That's my kind of line.
Yeah. I've lost a lot of time, so fourth is where I'm going to finish.
That's juicy though, well clear. Oh crap! The game's just crashed as you crossed the line. That's okay. It shall say.